There are actually other figures beside Amber Heard in Hollywood that have BPD, including Robbie Williams, Jim Carrey, Amy Winehouse, and also Britney Spears. So as mentioned, borderline personality disorder or BPD is one of the mental health disorders many people are discussing after American actress Amber Heard was diagnosed with this condition.
That's right, and about 1 to 4% of people in the world suffers BPD. In Indonesia, actress Ariel Tatum was diagnosed with BPD at the age of 18.
All right, so to educate us more about what is borderline personality disorder, its causes, symptoms, and treatments, we are now connected with psychologist and love life guru, Zoya Amirin. Hi, Zoya. Thanks again for joining us on the 3-Hour News Show. It's good to see you again.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so we've talked about so many psychological issues. Now we'll talk about BPD. How do you define that BPD? I mean, we've seen it in the case of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. What is actually the cause, and what do they need to do? I mean, can they find out if they have this BPD, if the victim itself?
Well, first thing first, to diagnose or to understand what is BPD, it's kind of tricky. Even for us as a psychologist, especially clinical psychologists, it's very challenging to have a session or therapy with the BPD person because they're attempt suicide, many times attempt suicide, and they have a frantic effort of avoid abandonment. So the relationship also between the BPD and the psychologist, sometimes we as a psychologist, we use our relationship to help them to figure out about their feelings. And many things that usually I give to my client, the information that feeling is not fact. So usually whatever that they try to transfer it to me about their feelings, I try to help them realize why they feel the way they feel about me and about this counseling relationship or this therapy relationship. So in a way, for people to understand if they have a family, loved ones, significant others who actually have a BPD, it's kind of it's not as easy as it is. But one of the very how you can say that is a very significant side is the attempt suicide idea. Not just the mood swings, but the attempt suicide, and they always try to figure themselves out, like why I feel the way I feel, what do I want, and the impulsivity, driving recklessly, sexual behavior, and all the recklessly, and the relationship especially. They almost cannot maintain a healthy relationship. They always like, I hate you, don't leave me, kind of idea. So for people to recognize that this is a BPD or not, please don't do a self-diagnose. Don't just, make a checklist of things that I see. If you think that you have a loved one of significant others who actually very impulsive, very reckless, and they have like attempt suicide many times, and they don't have any healthy relationship, it's so much better for you to go to the psychologist, especially the clinical psychologist, to figure things out together, because it's not something really simple. We can see in the case of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, I've been like watching very closely, and it was like shocking for a lot of people that try to understand that a borderline personality disorder can cause a lot of damage in this relationship.
True.
Some people may easily say it's like, hey, if you don't like Johnny Depp or if you don't like your partner, you can just leave it. But the thing is, for people with borderline personality disorder, they have a chronic fear of abandonment, because what caused them most likely is the issue of abandonment from childhood, and the not healthy relationship, that they always been dismissed when they are kids, never been validate of their feelings, so they have like a need to express to others that they need attention. They can hate someone so much They want to destroy the relationship, but they are afraid if the person
Yeah.
is actually leaving them. So
Right.
the kind of avoidant conflict, it's very very clinically ill. I can say that.
Okay, Mbak Zoya, how about in Indonesia? Do you know how many percentages in Indonesia who suffer from this disorder? Or about like
I don't have the research
mostly
yet. I
women
don't
or
have the
men?
research yet. Oh, mostly women,
Oh,
and borderline personality disorder. The abandonment feeling. It's like it's if I'm not mistaken, 8 out of 10% is women who have a borderline personality disorder.
What
Okay.
about other personality disorders? Is it common in Indonesia?
Other personality disorder, it's quite common, especially the narcissistic. I also can say that Amber Heard has a slightly trait of narcissistic behavior, the personality behavior, and most likely, if you've been diagnosed as a borderline personality disorder, most likely it's accompanied by other mood disorder. For instance, bipolar disorder, and can be like other disorder too.
Yeah, but I mean, is there any possibility that these disorders are connected? I mean, if somebody is having a BPD, and would it be possible that they also have another mental health condition, like as you mentioned, misusing alcohol, for example, or bipolar disorder
Oh,
for
yeah.
alcohol, for example?
Yeah, because of their reckless behavior, it so makes sense that sometimes they also using drugs, reckless, for instance, like reckless sexual behavior, and suicidal attempt, as well as like reckless driving, stuff like that. So all the impulsivity behavior, most likely, it's in a borderline personality disorder.
Okay, Ms. Zoya, is there a certain type of person who would suffer the disease? Can you say like most of them are extroverts or most of them are introverts, or just anybody can suffer the disease?
Uh, uh, Anybody can suffer a disease, especially if you have abandonment issue when you are a child. So it doesn't matter if you are introvert or extrovert. If you are like a chronic sadness and you have a fear of abandonment, and you don't want to be alone. And the thing is that the child sexual abuse also, and from last abnormal psychology research that I just read, we also figure out that there's a neurobiological connectivity problems with a person with borderline disorder. The person with borderline personality disorder actually have a disconnect between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. Amygdala is an emotional brain, yeah, and their emotional brain, and so their capability of emotion regulation, it's disconnect with their capability to make a good decision in their prefrontal cortex and cingulate cortex.
All right, so the question is right here. How do we know that people suffer from that BPD? Because for Amber Heard's case, or maybe other actors as well, they can actually do professional, jobs, but at the same time they have this BPD. How do you recognize that in a person?
That's very interesting. In Amber case trial, they been displayed that Amber Heard don't have like a very there's a history of unhealthy relationship in the past, because when some people abusing others or being toxic in relationship, because in a toxic relationship, like I've been invited before in a CNews, I say that there can be like two good people and become a toxic relationship, and it only takes one toxic people to have a toxic relationship. And these things, that's why it's very important for us, to be to realize what we need, how we always to evaluate our relationship after we break up with someone. We need to evaluate. So if you need to understand what happened in your past relationship, is there reoccurring abuse or fear of abandonment, that you are stay in the relationship that for sure that this is actually not healthy. you're not happy, and you try to hurt each other, stuff like that. Usually, if they have this kind of things and it's connected with the way their parents are validating their feelings, that's a probable potential that you have a borderline personality disorder. And usually it cannot happen in one night or in a week or a month.
Yeah.
Usually it's a piling of issues, small issue of abandonment, invalidation, dismissive parents or caregiver that actually already sunk in a people's mind and heart. It's actually like 10 years or so, and they only need one or two awful bad relationship, like a last straw to make them a borderline personality disorder.
Okay, Miss Zoya, we read that this disorder cannot be healed, but actually there are treatments to make it better. What are they?
We have several kind of therapy that actually will work for people with personality disorder, and depends. For instance, like if it's a neurobiological factors, then we need to figure out some behavioral treatment also. And there's a parenting interact with child vulnerability, so people need skills to interact with others with personality borderline personality disorder. And the one treatment is actually really valid to works with people with borderline. It's dialectical behavior therapy. It's a combined empathy and acceptance with cognitive behavioral problem solving and emotion regulation technique and social skill training. It's this therapy, it's by Linehan. We usually, as a psychologist, we work with people with borderline personality disorder with this kind of treatment, because it helps people to like understand, like, you know, have an empathy and understand cognitively that do not let your feelings or your fears impacted your love or the way you express love to others. You know, because if you need to act out of love instead of out of fear, in terms to be have a happy relationship, have a healthy, not just happy relationship.
Okay. Now, Ms. Zoya, last questions. How do we deal with someone with borderline personality disorder?
Can we living with someone with borderline personality disorder? Yes, but it's very important to understand each other, like understand your trigger. So if you have a borderline personality disorder, doesn't mean that you cannot have a good relationship. It's very important for you to evaluate yourself or why this relationship works. How do I learn from each relationship, and how I react to showing love instead of fear in a relationship. So with people who actually have a partner, have a spouse who has a borderline personality disorder, it's very important to ask them, like, what do you feel? How can I help you to overcome your fear? That leaving someone, how to be dependent emotionally in a relationship, and to always have like a very honest conversation about what you're afraid of. So it was so much easier when you can talk and validate each other's feelings, like, I fear if you leave me, I cannot live without you, that I want to have this kind of healthy relationship. So both of you understand each other's fears and sharing it, and try to be vulnerable and safe at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Miss Zoya, for your time and insight. Those are,
Very insightful.
Yeah, very insightful for all of us.
Well, sometimes you feel like it's too much when you say, oh, don't leave me. But I mean, if people has this borderline personality problem, then it means a lot, right?
Yeah, that's true. City Stories will continue after the break, and a list of movies in discussing toxic relationship. Don't go anywhere.